Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, November 1st. Happy November, or Movember, as some of you guys call it. I am Goes. To my left is Dan Tom, MMA Junkies fight analyst. Gorgeous George is in an undisclosed location in Enterprise, Nevada. Dan Oakers.
Dan.
You don't like going by Dan?
Producer.
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to set up what he is today, because today's not going to be the best producer in the world. Today's just the ball of flesh. I don't know how to describe it. Danny Okers ate the world's most spiciest chip this morning. And
Danny Okers ate two of the most spiciest chips ever.
I was going to get to that, yeah. And then, because he dumb, he did another one.
He's not that smart.
He's not smart. And so what happened was, I guess at the moment it wasn't so bad. Nah, not good. Right? Is that what's going on in your belly, Danny?
Yeah. Well, it's because I was extra dumb and ate two of them. It's coming in waves that I imagine would be a lot lesser if I just ate one. Because the second one I ate like maybe 5 minutes after the first one. So
What's the problem?
It was Carolina Reaper pepper stuff.
No, well, what's the problem? How's it affecting you?
It
shit or what?
No, it's just kind of like fire ants in my stomach. Be the best way to describe it. It's like I don't even feel like, because the engineer here was like, "Hey, you should make yourself throw up," and I was like, "I don't even feel like
don't do that."
I was like, "I don't even feel like I have to throw up. It's just an intense pain. Like it's pain."
You can close it. Thanks.
Coming up in a minute.
Farting a lot?
No. None of that yet. I mean, that's definitely later. But like now, it's just stomach.
If you throw up,
Danny,
you're gonna make all that come back up. That's like the worst idea ever.
I'm stubborn, and so is my stomach, so it wouldn't let me throw up anyway, even if I wanted to.
Danny, do you remember when we went to Samsung 837 NYC?
Yes.
Click OK.
Is that near where
30.
that guy mowed down those people?
It's closer to where he did than I am. Because that was.
But it is on that side, right, where the Hudson River's in.
Yeah, because that's lower Manhattan. All right, we're coming up at 10. Stand by.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position, because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Wednesday, November 1st. Happy All Saints Day to all you Catholics. It's actually one of the bigger days in the Catholic calendar. It's also the first day of Movember. And it's also Hump Day. And it's also the third day of Fight Week for UFC 217. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show, and I'm your host, Gorgeous George. The Goes is with me, our all-star co-host, Dan Tom, our latest addition to the show, the best fight analyst in the game, and the best producer in the game. He's back east, Danny Otto. What's up, guys?
What up, Holmes? How
Not
you doing?
much.
Good.
Morning.
Hey, Goes. The
Yeah?
other day you didn't really want me to talk too much about the World Series. Can we fit it in today? You know, is there time, or you want to just skip over it today?
Well, today we were supposed to have Kevin Lee, but Kevin Lee isn't going to be able to make it. So, I mean, normally this is an MMA show, and I like it to be true to that. But because we lost Kevin Lee, there's a little bit more time for people to call in and talk about whatever they want. So, yeah, if you want to talk about last night's World Series game, we could do that. I mean, I guess at that point we could talk about Manchester United. Champions League happened. I mean, normally I don't like to go this route, but because we have a little bit of time to fill, sure.
So tell me, Goes, you guys were down 1-0, and I think it was the 6th or the 7th when finally the Dodgers bats woke up. Were you getting nervous at all, or did you know that the rally stake was going to come through?
Look, man, I'm not going to lie. I was getting a little nervous just because they weren't hitting, but I've said this since day one. There hasn't been a doubt in my mind, and I even said this when we were down, we are going to win this World Series, and I still feel that same way. I felt like it was just a matter of time when they were going to do it. The 6th inning has been big for the Dodgers, and that's when they turned it on. But it hasn't just been about scoring runs. It's been stopping the Astros from scoring runs, too. So even with a lead, you still don't feel good, especially in this series. But now it's down to one game. And in the same way, all we have to do is win one game. All they got to do is win one game, too. So it's going to be fun, man. It's been one of my favorite World Series of all time, and I can't wait to get at it.
Cool. Yep, tonight's Game 7. It is taking place in Los Angeles. They earned it. They won 104 games this year. Houston won 101. So still probably the best two teams in baseball did make it to the end here. And it's kind of funny watching go through this nervous stage. Yesterday was Halloween. I hope you all had a fun time. We had about, what goes, maybe 30 to 40 kids stroll through.
Yeah, it was weird.
Wasn't the busiest night, but when they came in bunches, you know, that everybody was having a good time or whatever. But it was funny because around that time, the Dodgers still didn't have a run. So every time Goes had to get up, because I was out of commission. Juliet was kind of trapped. She was eating dinner. Every time Goes had to get up, you could just tell it was a double whammy. Like, these fucking kids. He's like an old man on Scooby-Doo, you know. He was just handing out the kids. Yeah, fake smile. Yeah, nice costume. Get the fuck out of here, you know. And then,
I wasn't even doing that. Like, normally I would do that. Like, hey, you know, what are you? Oh, that's so cool. I was just like, here. But they kept, it was like 10 of them at a time each time. And I know on one of them, I came back and all of a sudden there was a man on second and third. I was flipping out.
They may have done you a favor, Goes, because at least they saved you from seeing a double and man on second and third with no out. And I think in one of them, the Dodgers were, they had 2 outs. You know, they came to bat and then boom, 2 outs. And Goes was sitting back going, fuck, we already have 2 outs, man. And it was a fun night.
I'm already starting to get the text, George. All I know is you better eat that steak dinner tonight. So it's definitely on. Are you gonna do it as well, George?
When have I said no to a steak, boo?
Lots of times.
I have?
Yeah, in fact.
Oh, and to top it off, it's lots?
Yeah.
I would be arguing that I've never had, but now apparently I have, and I've done it plenty of times.
Well, I don't know about I don't know about a steak in general, but I mean, I know you have said no to a steak but you say no to red meat a lot, so that's why I was shocked when you said you would have eaten one last night.
No. What happens is I know that
if you have it, you like to take a break.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but you know, yeah. I mean, I'll have a steak. There you go.
Okay,
that's the easy way. All right. Well, tonight is Game 7. I hope y'all tune in because it has been a great World Series. And if some of you want to call it the greatest, that's fine too. I know we live in an era where everything's the best, the worst, the greatest, the dumbest, the this, the that, and that's the way you have to attack social media. But I was hearing a little bit of that out of you know, those involved with both teams after Game 5, and I thought Game 5 was one of the greatest, especially offensively. But I didn't think that the series had reached that point yet. But we'll see. Maybe Game 7 delivers and it's up there. It's definitely a top 10, you know, and that's such a subjective thing anyway. Like Howie D and I have argued over. I'll give you an example. In the Champions League of soccer, his team Liverpool was down 3-0 once to it was AC Milan. It was the championship game of the Champions League. It was the final, and think they came back. I think all their goals were in the second half. So that's an incredible comeback, honestly, to come back versus a team that's very defensive. They're led by veterans at the time, and they come back and win, and then or tie and then win in penalties. That's an awesome comeback. Manchester United was down 1-0 to another great team, Bayern Munich, in 1999, and with like with maybe a minute to go, they tied it, and then a minute or two into like a 3-minute overtime or injury time, they won it. So of course, his side's Liverpool, my side's Manchester United. We'll argue to the death which one was the better comeback. He can find an article that supports his side. I can find one that supports my side. But in the end, even if he found 100 and I only found 2 or vice versa, it's our own opinion of what we think, was the greatest. So same thing goes with the World Series. There's been some great ones over the years. I just thought, let it get to Game 6. Like, stuff happened in Game 6. I mean, that was great for the Dodgers to come back off of 1-0, honestly. And to see Morrow come back, because Morrow was the one that I think started the meltdown for you guys in Game 5, and to see him come back and bounce back and be the pitcher that he was, that was a statement. So there's some feel good for the Dodgers going into Game 7, and obviously the Astros definitely going to have to answer some questions because they had a lot of momentum going into Game 6. But this thing's starting to play out, and Game 7 could set it up so that many do wake up with the opinion that this may have been the greatest series ever. So good luck to both teams. I don't have a dog on the fight, but I guess I am more on the side of the Dodgers. That's why you'll hear me say go Dodgers. But honestly, the only thing I'll do is maybe put a bet out there just to spice it up and just enjoy it. Now, ratings have gone up, so it's been a nice comeback for baseball. So congrats to them. But after tonight, that's it, right, guys? I mean, UFC 217, did you guys see, these guys are starting to have their face-offs out there, their media days, their open workouts. I mean, we're going to really get into it heavy these last few days as we head into arguably one of the best fight cards of the year, if not the best fight card of the year on paper.
It still doesn't feel like fight week, though. For me. I still feel like, and even right now, like, one of the best judges of what's going on in the world of sports for me is when we walk in the sports book, when we look up on the big screen, whatever's going on up there, that's what's hot. And right now, it's still World Series, right? There's times where we walked in, and you'll see a Tyron Woodley giving an interview, a Stipe Miocic giving an interview, Ronda Rousey, and oh, man, MMA, all right, they're talking about it. It's a big deal. They still haven't gotten around to it yet on that big screen. I think when I see those faces up there is when I'll know, okay, here we go. It's time. The rest of the world is also paying attention. Dan Tom, for him,
how about you, Dan Tom? Yeah, I was going to say, if you go to Dan Tom's home, his office, and look in his filing system, I'm pretty sure baseball's filed under pay no mind.
Yes.
So how about you, Dan? You've been breaking down fights. You got to be feeling it by now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't got time for anything else, to be honest, besides that. But, from my view aside, right now my head's kind of in the books. I'm studying, I'm studying for the fight card this weekend. But I am peeking into Twitter. Usually I'm peeking into Twitter just to make sure no fights are getting canceled, so I'm not doing, any needless work. But what I am seeing is what you're saying, George. I'm seeing the media days, the open workouts, the weigh-ins, the optimist in me. Yes, there is an optimist in me. Gets excited, man. I get excited for these things, but kind of like what I said yesterday. It's just I don't know if this is reaching or has the ability to reach and have the same effect, to everybody else.
Yeah. Well, Ghost talked about people giving interviews, and Dana White had a extensive interview with Jim Rome, and at some point in time, you're going to see headlines everywhere attributed to Dana White. He didn't just say it directly. Jon Jones is unfixable, but basically you glue it all together, everything he said when Jon Jones' name came up. He's of the opinion that he's just his own worst enemy, and this guy may never figure it out. At age 30, we keep hoping, okay, so let's say he gets a 1-year penalty or a 2-year penalty or whatever. Can he come back? Can he do something? But Dana White is on the side of he's just his own worst enemy, and he doesn't ever think he's going to come back. So there's really not much of an update there other than the UFC president talking about one of his biggest stars. But it sucks when he's kind of going that way, because if anything, usually the president has always let us know that, I guess he's always been a little bit more positive or more of an optimist when he comes to his athletes that get into some trouble.
Do you think maybe he just said that so he could stop asking the question? Get the same question over and over?
Well, I think there's a little bit of animosity because we've heard that they haven't talked since UFC 200.
Mm-hmm.
So, think about it. They went a whole year without talking, and then in Anaheim, it sounds like they didn't even talk then. So they're obviously just don't have the relationship they once had. And so he's probably just over it. Or maybe that's his way of, I guess, jabbing. Who knows?
Where do you think Jon Jones is at in all this? What is he thinking? Because we all know Jon Jones doesn't really think like everyone else. So is he just going, another slap on the wrist, I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to dial it in? Or do you think he's closer to maybe a spiral of some sort?
Well, that's a good question. I'll say this. Really, from if somebody, like if a casual fan would ask me, tell me about Jon Jones and what he's into right now, I would start off by saying, well, these are his allegations against him, the anti-doping allegations against him right now, that he needs to sort out. Whereas in the past, prior to UFC 214, I would have talked about more of the partier Jon Jones. Yes, I know he had some violations before, but I thought the biggest thing was, his habits and the partying that he does and all that. So coming out of 214, yes, again, there's a new set of anti-doping allegations, but when Dana was talking about unfixable, it seemed like he was talking about like he knows more that on the personal side, Jon Jones still hasn't changed. That immature kid that's still partying versus whatever the rest of us are waiting to hear, which is, hey, what did you do to enhance your performance on January 8th or excuse me, July 8th or whenever that event was? So that's the part that I was a little bit more concerned with. Was, you're right, is there a downward spiral, or could one come if things don't go away when they do hear his appeal? Who knows? It's all a mystery.
What about the fact that, we really haven't heard, have you guys noticed in the past his teammates kind of stick up for him a lot? I haven't heard much of that this time around.
Yeah,
that's what scares me. Somebody in this
that.
situation, your support system is very key, and I just haven't seen that reaction from other. What's weird is I've seen it from other people. Like when you think about it, Daniel Cormier almost somewhat came to his defense in a time where he probably could have squashed him, and he didn't. But I'm yet to hear Greg Jackson or Cowboy or any of these guys just kind of stand up and say they got their boys back.
Yeah, it's true. I haven't seen that, any of that either.
It could just be that they're tired of it blowing up in their face. You can only be positive for so long, and then when the person at hand, the subject at hand, just keeps letting you down, now you start to look like a fool. People know that they're not going to take them serious either when they say stuff. Everybody's obviously rooting for him to clean his act up, even if he never fights again. I would never wish harm on someone, regardless of whether I've ever been a fan of them or not, or what they've done. You always want everyone to become better. As far as the allegations, that's his own pickle. He'll have to sort that out, and if it's a year, 2, 4, when he comes back, we'll be covering him. But he's the one that's going to have to deal with, not fighting and providing for his family the way he could. But as far as the personal side, I really want him to come back from that. I don't know. I don't know that he can. And this reminds me of 80s baseball, Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, and other athletes that just couldn't shake that coke habit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever it is that he has, it just keeps bringing him back. Fame, power, drugs. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. It was outside of UFC 217, there was just a couple news pieces that came out, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. And I guess the other one would be Conor McGregor did apologize for the homophobic slur. He was caught backstage, when he was walking his teammate Artem Lobov back to the locker room using, we'll say, the F word. But you know what? We're all fucking big kids here. I'm gonna say the word so people understand what I'm saying. I'm tired of dancing around this stuff. We know it's an inappropriate word. It's all in how you use it. But he was caught using the word faggot. Obviously inappropriate, but he hadn't really said anything since then, and so now he's given some interviews out there, and we'll talk about what might be next for Conor McGregor, because that's another big thing that came out. But he did issue an apology, and he did say he meant no disrespect. I think the only concern that's coming from at least the media that that I follow, respect, is just, although there's an apology out there, and although I believe most of us are convinced that he has no hatred towards the LGBT community or anything like that, is he recognizing that has he reached the point where he should just recognize that he shouldn't use the word, you know? Much like what we talked about for Risa Verdum about a month ago. And if not, what's taking so long for some of these athletes to at least get to the recognition point of why we're here to begin with?
Well, I think his was a little bit different, right? He was in a situation where he probably, I mean, you once you go to work, and for me, that's Conor McGregor going to work. Once you throw on that suit and you walk into an arena, you have to, and even outside of the arena, really, with things like TMZ and stuff like that, you have to imagine that cameras are on you at all times. He was kind of in a situation where maybe he just thought somebody wasn't around or what. I thought he said all the right things. The problem is, it's just something that's so dumb, you know, that he said, and so many people know you're not supposed to do it at this point, that it's like, some people will look at it as you could say whatever you want, but you still said it. I think he probably did the best that he could have done after what he did in the things that he said. He said all the right things, and hopefully he just doesn't get caught again, because if he gets caught again, it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, man. You pretty much nailed it right there. I mean, it would definitely be worse. I mean, especially because, you know, the accumulation effect. We were just talking about it with Jon Jones. Even your most staunch defenders and support system, a little less vocal, right? Each time you do these things. So yeah.
Now, aside from McGregor and the interviews that I've seen that he's done, his manager Adiatar also did an interview. And everything that I'm listening to, because some of these are like 45 minutes long, so it's taking me forever to get through some of them. But everything that I'm seeing is now making me believe that Tony Ferguson really will be next for Conor McGregor. When? I don't know. But from Conor McGregor's mouth, he's saying negotiations are taking place. He still leaves an opening for Nate Diaz, but I've been hearing a lot from him that it makes sense to unify versus Tony Ferguson, and it seems like he also wants to shut up the doubters who believe he's kind of made, not so much a mockery, but as far as like the actual belts, the validation of the belts, the worth of the belts, that he slighted it, and so he wants to bring order. He wants to restore order to the division, and he believes that unifying the belt would make sense. So I'm glad to hear that. When it could take place, I don't know. We thought maybe the end of the year, but now we're hearing that the end of the year was the focus there was, on a couple females defending their belts there, and Amanda Nunes now has a new, is going to have a new opponent. It looks like Raquel Pennington won't be able to make that dance. But with the announcement of Boston getting a pay-per-view in early 2018, could it be there that he does it? And that's the big question. But boy, does that make me happy to hear Barbosa and Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson versus Conor McGregor. I mean, as a fan of the sport and as a fan of the lightweight division, I'm happy to hear that they're going in that direction.
I think it's a good thing for the division. It's a good thing for the sport. I actually think it's a good thing for Conor McGregor. I mean, Tony Ferguson, if you take any of those top guys, they're all going to be a nightmare of some sort. But if you can tell Conor you have a guy that's going to stand right in front of you and come forward, I think he would invite that sort of challenge versus what a training camp would be for like a guy like Khabib. It just seems like it's so much you got to learn in such a short period of time of how to stop one guy with the one thing that he does that not very many people have been able to solve. So now you have a scenario where you have a guy that's going to come forward, he's going to attack you. It's what you like. You can come to that dance and show off your skills, and at the same time, the guy who probably poses one of the biggest threats to you, he's got to go through another camp, and he's got to put more mileage on his body, and he's going to face a tough guy in Edson Barbosa. Like, whoever sees Edson Barbosa and says, oh, yeah, give me him, and then when I'm done with him, I'll move on, that's a tough fighter.
Yeah. I almost don't want to say anything because I don't want to jinx it, with this whole booking of Conor McGregor and this whole unification and having a clear picture of the lightweight division, which, kind of has its own history, relevant and otherwise, of being in disarray. So I'm just knocking on wood quietly here, guys, and hoping this stuff keeps moving in this direction and we can get moving forward.
My question to Kevin Lee would have been, where does that leave you? If all of these likely scenarios are looking to take place, where does that leave you? You know, what does Kevin Lee want next for him? Because he wanted Khabib for the longest time. Hell, let's even go back about 2 years. He wanted Sage, but things moved around a little bit. Then he wanted Khabib. Then he got Tony, who doesn't want Conor. But, you know, these dance cards are filling up. Gaethje's tied up with Alvarez. Pettis is tied up with Poirier. So, you know, that fight is coming up, though. So maybe coming out of that fight, maybe there's somebody available for Nate Diaz, who I'd love to see. Enough with the obsession over Conor 3. It's going to happen either way. I mean, Conor's coming off a loss technically in boxing, but yet the fight is still big. I just think that fight sells at any point. But, I mean, I don't want to see Nate Diaz coming off a 3-year layoff just to fight Conor McGregor. You know what I mean? And I don't want to see him. I don't want to see the guy hinging his own career on just waiting for the Irishman. I believe Nate Diaz is a star. I disagree with Dana White that he's ever been the needle mover. I mean, maybe he hasn't been a big, massive pay-per-view draw, but people got excited over Nate Diaz fights, and that's why he was always in a co-main event or in a main event. And I feel like, God, those early 30s, you know, that the Diaz brothers are just pissing away. Holy cow. Hopefully it's a great business decision and they make it up on the back end. But, man, I'd love to see them fight, get a nice 2-3 fight win streak each, and forge their own path, you know, not have to worry about, well, how about Condit? Or how about this other great like Anderson Silva, you know, and where we start pairing up legendary names. No, how about a Diaz brother either fighting for a title that he's earned and hopefully winning one and then getting those pay-per-view points and even becoming even bigger stars? That's what I want for those guys. But regardless, what would you guys suggest next for Kevin Lee, or what do you think Kevin Lee would have said if he was in studio today?
What I think is next for him is probably the winner of Anthony Pettis and Dustin Poirier. I think that might make sense. But if I know Kevin, shit, if Nate Diaz ain't booked up and he's looking to dance, I could see him picking a fight with Nate Diaz because that's going to translate into a lot of money and a lot of shit talk.
Yeah, I could see that too. Perhaps I could also see him, you know, trying to chase the loser of whatever matchup Khabib is in, because he planted those seeds with Khabib a little bit ago, and I know Kevin's, you know, smart enough to realize the seeds that he plants. So depending on where that falls, you know, that could be an option as well. And to touch on something, you know, Gigi said about, you know, Nate Diaz that made me click. It said, you know, I agree with you, Gigi, by the way, and it's true, because you think about it, Nate Diaz has had paths to get back into the title picture before and after Conor. He had that backstage heat with Eddie Alvarez, who ended up taking the title, and granted there was, you know, contract issues that Nate had, which, you know, I don't know about. I can't weigh in on that prevented, you know, certain things from happening. But then after that, obviously the heat with, you know, Tony Ferguson, there was some heat there, and there was some talk there, and perhaps that, you know, rumor that maybe even the UFC came with an offer, not to Nate's liking obviously, but came with an offer to make that happen. So, you know, you're right, George. How many times is he going to be able to you know, say no to these bridges that are extending his way if he's just waiting for that McGregor bridge?
Just think about if he had said yes to the Ferguson fight. And remember, Kevin had some success versus Tony early on. Let's just say that was Nate. He didn't have staff. He didn't have a rough weight cut. He was in great shape. And let's just say he does pull off the win over Ferguson. He's now the interim champ. So not only is it a huge trilogy fight, it's also a title unification bout. And he beat him once. So who's to say he can't beat him a third or a second time in the third fight? Imagine what Nate could be. I mean, that's the part I don't get, and that's the part I'd love to ask him. And I'm not sure that even when he does interviews, he gets asked, or maybe the questions get put to him that way. But, man, you know, again, the lightweight division, it can make its way back to being my favorite yet again. I think in 2018, some great matchups that are going to happen this year. Some great fighters. I mean, there's some characters there. I stayed up late, watched last night, excuse me, and I was listening to a few different podcasts out there, and it all circled back to Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson on Fox Sports, you know, after Lee's fight with Chiesa, and just seeing how that played out. And so I had a lot of fun just, you know, trying to make some sense out of the 155-pound division. Let's not forget about Chiesa, too. He's in there as well. You know, Trinaldo, Cowboy, if he ever drops. I'm telling you, this thing could really, really heat up once again. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to ask you guys, Junkie Nation included, 866-522-2846, what do you guys want to see for each fighter should they win on Saturday night? And obviously, we'll start with the main event, Michael Bisping versus GSP. Forget about retirements. If they win and they were to fight again, who do you want to see from those two headliners? We'll be right back after this break.
To link into the MMA Junkie Radio Network, hit us up on twitter.com at MMA Junkie Radio. This is MMA Junkie Radio. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio, live from the Racing Sportsbook at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, where elegance and excitement meet on the Las Vegas Strip. 877-632-7000 for room reservations, or follow them on their social media fronts of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.com/Mandalay Bay. Let them know the at MMA Junkie Radio guy sent you. On Twitter, I'm at MMA Junkie George. Goes can be followed at The Goes. Dan Tom is at Dan Tom MMA. And our producer, Danny, she can be followed at Danny Otto.
Wow.
She's hurting today. Her tummy hurts.
Wow.
So I'm going to do her segment of at MMA History Today. Follow them on Twitter at MMA History Today. As I'm saying this, who knows if I'm hurting somebody out there for comparing Danny to a woman. And if so, I'll apologize sincerely. I'm just getting older, and sometimes I fucking cross lines. Who gives a fuck, honestly? All right, here we go. Check this out, guys. After leaving Brazil, Vanderlei Silva began competing in Pride FC, where he would become one of the best fighters in the world. That's it? He left Brazil?
That wasn't the one. You read the wrong one.
Oh, did I? I was going to say.
21 years
they
ago
actually
today.
knew the day he left Brazil?
21 years ago today, November 1st, 1996. Vanderlei Silva made his MMA debut.
Yeah, he knocked out Dilson Filho.
I was going to say, that's kind of
I miss Vanderlei, guys. I know. I was reading that going, what the fuck?
I was waiting for the punchline.
Yeah, I goofed. Sorry, I guess we need Danny back. Thanks for rescuing me on that one, Danny.
Not so easy being me.
I was thinking, wow, did these guys know the day he actually boarded the plane and left Brazil?
Just on that day, he just decided to leave Brazil.
Bye, Vanderlei.
21 years ago today in history, he left Brazil and competed.
Competed in MMA.
No actual fight, no result. Okay, my bad. Yeah, and you know what? Check out at MMA History Today. They actually posted a really cool picture of back in the day, Rafael Cordero, Anderson. So this is when Cordero was still fighting. Anderson Silva, Ninja, Murillo, Murillo, not Shogun, not Mauricio. Who he's in the picture. Vanderlei. It's old school, and you can tell. I think his name was Rafael Rodrigo. What was his name?
Who?
The old coach of Chute Boxe?
Oh no, you're thinking of Hujamar.
Rodrigo. Yeah, Hujamar. Yeah, he's in there as well. It's a really, really cool picture. I think you guys would dig it. And if I'm not mistaken, that's also Pelé. Pelé is in the picture as well. You just have to scroll down a little bit. That at one point, guys, was one of the most feared teams, one of the most successful teams. It was the team. I mean, you talk about Jackson and ATT and AKA and all the big teams in America now. At the time, those teams hadn't really, I guess, made their way to the forefront. But the Chute Boxe team, Brazilian top team,
that was their rivals.
Those were some squads, man. Those really were some squads. But just look at that, Anderson Silva, Vanderlei Silva, and missing from that picture is Shogun Rua. But Pelé, man, look up Pelé and see what his contributions were to mixed martial arts. He was a great fighter. If I'm not mistaken, he's still fighting.
That exact
even
crew
up to this day.
Walked right in front of us at the Pride Open workouts. Do you remember that? And they were all in the ring at the same time, all hitting mitts and working out. And it was a sight to see, dude.
When people take pictures of the 209 crew, the 209, they're always dressed in black. And they're always rolling like they're walking to a gang fight. That's just the way
they're like the outsiders.
Swag. Exactly. That I think Chute Boxe had a lot of that. Early on, or when they were getting off an elevator, walking down a hallway. I mean, you just told your crew, "Hey, let these guys through." Right this way, sir. And you ain't trying to lock eyes with any of those guys, man, because they had some killers. Let's take some calls here, 866-522-2846, and then I want to talk a little bit more about Colby Covington. Any piece that's going up is doing traffic, so people do care. The latest is Killer B, Ben Saunders. He had a message that he's been leaving for Colby Covington on social media. If you follow him, check it out. But Colby, man, that guy, he's not going to be too welcomed when he comes back to American Top Team. I'd like to see what that experience is going to be like. And American Top Team members will be in New York this weekend. I know Dan Lambert and obviously George Masvidal will be there, so I think that'll be a little bit more of a safe haven for him. But at some point in time, he's going to want to go back to South Florida, and I'm just curious to see how it's going to go for him. Also, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I forgot she's a member of American Top Team. I don't know where she resides in all this, but anyway, let's talk to Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco. ¿Qué pasa, dudes?
¿Qué pasa?
What's up, Marco?
Hey, on that question, what you guys want for the winners this weekend?
Yes.
Very simple. Bisping and GSP, no matter what, they have to fight Robert Whittaker. They have to unify. That's just the bottom line.
Well, if you're going to move on to the next subject, I got to stop you. Bisping, yes, but does GSP have to unify? Because he, I believe, is chasing a little bit more history, where, let's just say, again, I said, as long as they don't retire, would GSP be out of line to say, I did it, I won a second title, I now relinquish the belt, and I guess, I think Whittaker at that point becomes the champ. I don't know what happens, but if he were to go and face Tyron Woodley, would that be in any way out of line?
On the out of public opinion, because we hardcores will never forgive him. That's just my opinion. We will call him out on that because he said it that he was going to face Whittaker after the. If he goes and beat Whittaker, then he can do whatever he wants. But because Whittaker is hanging around there with a second belt, he needs to unify. On the second one, Garbrandt and TJ, no matter what, they had to let Demetrius Johnson fight them, either at 125 or 135. That is the next fight for either one of those two dudes. And both specified that they wanted to face DJ anyway, so that is a super fight of both of those guys. And Jędrzejczyk and Namajunas, if Jędrzejczyk wins, I want her to move up to 125 and beat the crap out of whoever is going to become the champion at 125, because it doesn't matter. But if it's Namajunas, it's two options. Either an immediate rematch with Jędrzejczyk or facing Jessica Andrade. Those are my options. What do you think?
I like that. Hey, I think he laid it out pretty.
Covered a lot, but he was pretty spot on.
Yeah. The only thing I disagree with is I don't think if GSP wins the belt, I don't think he'll defend it. I think he'll go down and try and win that second title. For Bisping, if he were to win, I would say a little bit of time off and Robert Whittaker. But I wouldn't even be shocked if Bisping tried to walk away at this point in his career.
Why time off, though? He just had a year off.
Because
the date's already set.
He's already kind of like...
Bisping's wife's from Australia. Whittaker's from Australia. You think that makes a lot of sense, you know?
I have a feeling that might be his last fight. I mean, he's just kind of...
Bisping?
The way he's talking, I think if it's not going to be his last fight, he's definitely going to want to take a little bit of time off, I think. But I honestly think this will be probably his last one. And then, he was right with Cody and Dillashaw. I think that Demetrius fight makes sense, especially in that division. And then with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I mean, Andrade, Claudia, that's all been done. It's just like does she really have very many options? I mean, at this point, nothing she's going to pull in is going to really be that sexy. Rose shakes everything up. That division will be a lot more fun. But yeah, 125 would be fun. I mean, Marco kind of laid it out, dude.
I will say this. All right, thanks, Marco. Beat it. But I will say this. Even if GSP said, yeah, I'll take Whittaker on next, someone's entitled to change their mind. And when you're talking about if it's not Whittaker, now all of a sudden it's Tyron Woodley, it's not like you can say, oh, my God, he's running from somebody. I mean, yeah, the only thing he's running from is from someone that's in a higher division. But, Woodley's one of the best in the sport as well. And there's just a storyline of the current great in Tyron Woodley versus the all-time great in GSP. I think that can be forgiven if GSP does that. Plus, GSP may just be like, fuck that, Australia, Perth. No, I'm a Vegas guy. I'm a New York guy. You know what I mean? I think he's just been more set in stone, I guess, as a North American-based fighter that you build cards around. So we'll see. If Bisping wins, though, yes, unification versus Robert Whittaker. Now, I will say this to disagree with Goes. Goes says he thinks this might be Bisping's last fight. You may very well be right. But in the first embedded, I believe it was the first one. He goes for a run on the treadmill, and then he's just kind of pacing back and forth. But he starts talking a little bit about how much this fight means to shut a lot of the doubters up that are out there. And guess what? Those doubters are still going to be there if he beats GSP. It'll still be a great win. There's no way around it. You beat GSP, I don't care if it's a 4-year layoff or not. It's still a big win. Is it as big as had he beaten GSP 4 years ago? Of course not. But it's still a big win. It's on a huge stage. But what it won't do is shut up all the doubters. Maybe 1 out of 10 doubters. There's still going to be 9 that say, where are the middleweight, the top defenses against the top middleweights? Now, it's not his fault that Romero lost to Whitaker and that Jacare lost to Whitaker and that Mousasi signed elsewhere. You know, all that stuff that played out the way it did, that's not his fault. But we know that in February, Whitaker would be there waiting for him, so it would be one more camp. And on the one hand, he's saying, I feel great, best shape of my life, this, that, whatever, and I get it, some of it's fight hype, but you also just can't have that both ways. If we are to believe, hey, we're going to pay $60 because you're in the best shape of your life, it's going to be a great fight, then we believe that, hey, you could possibly do this one more time 3 months later and shut up those doubters. So, again, you can tell that bugs, my original point is, it bugs him that people don't respect his title reign. You know, not the fact that he won the world title, because he knocked out Luke Rockhold. You can't take that away from him. It's not like you got to give me there. He actually went in there and did his job. The only thing that I think people really want to see is him at least defend against someone that's top notch. And the same thing would go for Conor McGregor, which is something I brought up earlier in an interview that I saw that he did overseas. The young lady's name, I don't know her last name, but he kept addressing her as Caroline. She asked him a question that you could tell made him uncomfortable, and that's, even when you won your 2 titles at Cage Warriors, and now you've won your 2 titles at the UFC, you've yet to ever defend a title, you know? He had to take a pause, and he had a good answer, because Conor's an excellent speaker, and he said, look, every fight I go into is a massive fight regardless, so, you know, I'm always in big fights with big names. But she was right, and, you know, a lot of people do know those facts. He's yet to defend the title, and that is what the pundits and the hardcore fans talk about. When everyone sits around and there are no fights on a night and everyone's having a good drink and someone goes, who's the GOAT? And people start making cases for the GOATs, that shit comes up. And I think fighters also like to be at least involved in those conversations. They want their names to be thrown out there. You know, they've already got the money, they've already got the title, but a lot of them want the legacy, and I believe both the Englishman and the Irishman want it. So I believe Bisping, should he win, should go after a guy like Robert Whitaker.
Man, I feel bad for him because he's in a situation. Anytime where the bigger man is fighting the smaller man, there's just not much to gain, because you're supposed to win that fight, right? Regardless if it's GSP or not. If GSP didn't have that huge layoff, then I think it would mean more. Where I think it will mean more for Bisping is legacy-wise. When 2 or 3 years now, when we look at his career, and you can say, yeah, man, he beat one of the greatest of all times, I think then we forget about the layoff, all that stuff, right? I think it helps him in that sense, but really, I mean, he can mop the floor with GSP, and I think the same criticism's going to come out. People are going to say, you know, what about this guy? What about that guy? So if that's what he's looking to get out of this, I don't think he's going to get it. I think he's still going to have his doubters. And I think same thing for Conor. Like, he could mop the floor with Tony Ferguson, and you're still gonna get those people that go, how come you never fought Frankie when he wanted it? And that's just the way that the sport is. So you got to kind of live with those type of things. But I mean, I don't know, Dan. What do you think?
No, you said it. You said it correct. That the irony is 2 parts. Is that A, you know, or B, I should say, he's not going to get credit if he does beat GSP, despite GSP being the name, because it's the smaller guy argument, all that stuff. But then 2, I saw those articles, or you know, I didn't see the embedded, watch the embedded yet. But I saw the articles as far as, you know, Bisping still, I guess, not feeling he gets his respect. And I'm on the opposite end there, too. I feel like he does get the respect that is deserved, at least with the, you know, Fighter of the Year award last year and that crazy year he had. I think even people that were reluctant to come around have come around and give him his due credit. I mean, you know, you can have little caveats and little, you know, things here like, oh, well, you know, it was a close fight. Sure, but I really don't think it takes away. I think he's got a lot to be proud of, and, you know, but that's fighters, right? They always have to have that chip on their shoulder. But I don't know who Bisping's listening to. I think he's already, you know, he could lose this fight to GSP and still have a very, very proud career he can look back on.
for sure. He'll have tons of respect. He's a legend. He's a future Hall of Famer. But it's just, there's just different conversations in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there's, talk, GOAT talk, I guess, or legend talk or whatever. And when people sit around and talk about that, one thing people are going to talk about is your title reign, your title defenses. And even though he could retire, if he were to retire after GSP with 2, meaning Henderson and GSP, if it's bothering him now on that treadmill, trust me, it'll bother him in 3 months. It'll bother him in 3 years, because he'll know these fighters. You know how they say never talk about a woman, she can hear you no matter the distance or whatever. Same thing, man. These fighters, as much as they want to say, oh yeah, social media, it's not for me, or I don't go on the websites or this, that, whatever, they know what the talk is, and these are alpha males extraordinaire, man. They want to be regarded as all-time greats or whatever. So I think they'll give some serious contemplation. Now, let's say Bisping had, he's got obviously the problem with his eye. That can't get corrected until after retirement. Or let's just say he was waking up and having bad dreams or stuttering or this and that. Then, of course, you can side with the fighter and go, no, man, you've proved enough. That's fine. Let the pundits talk, but you need to look out for your health, your family. He has a future, obviously, in acting or television or podcast world. That's fine. But if he still has something in him physically that he can do it, and it doesn't appear that he's stuttering because he's got a popular podcast and he's on Fox, so it does appear that he's got all the marbles and everything's working great, then I really think he should give it some serious consideration. Otherwise, I think it'll just bug him forever. Win or lose, because it's all about how you perform. You could still go out there, fight great, lose, but you gain a ton of respect.
Yeah.
All right, let's take this last break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We'll keep talking about UFC 217 that's coming up. There's also the Bellator 186 card the night before. Lots of fighting going on all over the world. One Championship has an offering. PFL has a fight card this weekend. World Series is tonight. Of course, we're in the midst of soccer, pro football, college football. It's such a great time here in the fall. I hope you all had a safe Halloween, and I hope you all have a great Movember. I'll ask the guys and see if they plan on sporting a mustache. I could take off half this goatee and sport a mustache, but I can only stand that for like 2-3 days, and then I have to shave it. But I may participate even if it's just for a couple of days. All right, folks, we'll be right back. And also, just to turn the page and look forward to the second hour, Mickey Gall will be a guest of ours. He'll be fighting at UFC 217 versus Randy Brown. However, that's coming up midway through the next hour.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, let's take another phone call here before this first hour wraps up. We'll talk to DJ Tony from San Francisco. What's up, Tony? You coming at us?
What's up, guys? Hey, I wanted to chat about something that may be a sensitive topic, but I think with what we've seen recently with Alex Nicholson and some of the ATT team, and I'm really glad that some of the athletes have come out and sort of espouse on behalf of Brazil, but do you guys think that I know how you guys, or at least how you, George, are with that sometimes there is a little too much sensitivity in terms of what things are said publicly with MMA, etc. Often with the Dodgers, when someone made and I'm curious to know what Dan Tom thinks about this too. When someone makes a gesture that certainly insulted a large portion of the Asian community, but we've also seen a large portion of MMA attacking either third world countries or at least the Latino scene, and being a proud owner of one of probably the only MMA Latino-owned or minority-owned MMA-only outlets. I'm a little sensitive to that, and I want to see how you guys react to what we've seen in MMA.
Sensitive to what? Sensitive to Colby, the way he talked about Brazil? Sensitive to Chinito from the other day? Which one specifically?
So, certainly we've seen with Colby Covington attacking Brazil and calling them effectively animals. We've certainly seen Alex Nicholson, I think, use the F word, and certainly Conor McGregor use that as well. I'm just curious to see what you guys' take is on this sport specifically, seeming to always go to that line.
All right. Do you guys want to go first? Or?
Well,
Tony, do you have any follow-up? Do you have anything else? Just because we'll gladly take our time with this and answer it, but we're really up against the hour. So if you have another question, go ahead. If not, that's it. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony.
Tony, answer me one question real fast. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
A few of the junkies were wondering there hadn't been an Amp Radio episode uploaded. Were you guys on vacation, taking a break? Is the show still going on?
Oh, we're certainly doing at least 2 shows a week, if not more. We just didn't do the Sunday show because we're stuck 11 straight weeks with each other, and we just kind of wanted to get a little bit of family time. But
I hear you.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate your time.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, folks. We'll come back. We'll answer Tony's question. I think we can spend some time with it. Again, we have Mickey Gall coming up at the bottom of the second hour. Other than that, it's all about you, Junkie Nation. 866-522-2846. And we'll also discuss the latest news, the latest matchups, all the good stuff that happens in the world of mixed martial arts. Stay close. it up, Danny. I love this song. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. For those that don't know, our producer Danny is the singer, the lead singer of a band, and Automatic 253. Or did you guys change the name to Automatic 252?
Nope. 253.
Okay. And Danny, I want to know, would you ever cover a song like that, totally out of the box? Could you hit those types of notes?
I probably wouldn't be able to do that one because I know my voice enough to know I definitely couldn't hit any of those notes. But we've talked about like covering stuff that wasn't in our wheelhouse at all, just to make things interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to be identical to the VGs. Like, did you ever see the movie Swingers? Somebody's in there butchering the song, but yet it's still in the movie, and people are digging it. So I don't know.
That's true. Good reference there from Swingers.
Yeah, right. Well, the problem is when we're the band and people are paying to see us, we can't butcher it. We have to do it at least a decent version.
Right. All right. Any gigs coming up in New York? My cousins always ask me, and they want to go to one of your gigs. So do you have anything coming up?
Nothing in New York coming up. Probably in December, because we'll probably do a mini tour in December, and I really want to do a stop in New York, like in the winter in December. But we do have one November 16th in Northern Jersey that your cousins can make it to. It's really close.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, 10-minute bus ride, 15-minute bus ride.
In November. I mean, we are in November, so it's coming up.
Yeah, the 16th, so only a couple weeks.
What day does that fall on? What day of the week?
That is a Thursday night.
Very cool. I'll let them know. All right. Cool. So the DJ Tony was asking the question before the commercial, about some of the stuff that's been going on in sports that often does get highlighted. Conor McGregor using the homophobic slur. Kobe Covington obviously coming at the whole country of Brazil. The filthy animals that are in the audience. Kobe's words, not mine. And the dump that is Sao Paulo. Again, Kobe's words, not mine. And then outside of mixed martial arts, we had a player from the Houston Astros, Yuli Gurriel, I believe is his name, who made a reference to the Dodgers pitcher. He is of an Asian background. Did a gesture with his two index fingers, stretching his eyes out and saying what is believed to be the word chinito. What are our thoughts on that? And I guess just the sports landscape and everything that's happening as of late. Goes and Dan, you want to start things off, or?
Goes, you
want? Yeah. So okay, this one hits a little bit close to home, and I can take my Dodger bias out of this. It really has nothing to do with it was my team, my pitcher that was the brunt of all that. Look, man, dude, I don't care. I don't care if you're a foreign player. I really don't care at this point, especially this late into the season. Like, you just know better. You shouldn't be doing it. There's too many people that fall to these type of things per day for you not to know that that's something you just shouldn't do. Did he mean it in that way? I don't know. We grew up differently. Everybody grows up differently, but he's from another country where just things are different. I don't think he meant it so bad, but the problem is this. What he meant was, what's up? I just fucking hit a home run off of you. That's what he's motivated about. That's what he's excited about. The second he brings that guy's race into it, it becomes something different. It's no longer about what's up. I just hit a home run in the World Series, made you look like a chump. Now it becomes, this means more to me because of that, because you're that race or whatever. Him bringing that up changes everything, and it makes everything different. So whatever the punishment is, like I kind of give the Dodgers props, Darvish props in the way that he handled it. He said it did hurt him. He didn't like it. I like what Dave Roberts said about, let's just make this about the teams and the World Series and not about individual players. There will be a punishment next year, and Gurriel's going to lose a lot of money over it. but he just you got to know better this day and age. You have to know better, and he could have made that point. He could have come across. He could have done the choking sign. He could have done whatever he wanted. But the second he made those gestures, it became a racial thing, and it shows a different level. It starts to show hate versus my team is better than yours.
Yeah, I guess first of all, before I touch on my opinion on the baseball and how it relates to MMA sports and this topic we're covering, I'm more on the side of Gigi in the fact that I come from more of a that more old school mentality, and it's about intent. And if your intent's not to hurt, and you're being, and for me also, I will say, if you're being creative, funny, or clever ways on something, and comedians know this. They know that even if their intent's wrong, if their joke doesn't deliver, they're still responsible for that, and it sucks. And they might not agree with it. We might not agree with it, but they, understand that. So first of all, I'm more that if we're gonna do it, let's do it to everybody. Let's be fair about it. Let's have a good sense of humor about it. That's my standpoint. That being said, this is a different day and age, and if it's easier to not use the F word, to not make somebody hurt feelings, super easy for me to compromise. I have no problem there. That's why I do think it's right that even the arguments you can make for Conor, I do think that he needed to apologize and get in front of it and take accountability for it. So that's where I stand with these things. And for example, with the baseball thing, I worked on a construction site, managing guys from South America, Mexico, and I had a really, I can proud to say, I had a really good relationship with these guys, and they would mess around and call me Chinito all the time, and I would just be like, hey, no mames, güey, no sé Chinito, and I try to, learn my Spanish, and I play into it. It doesn't offend me. But what offends me with this scenario with the Dodgers or with the Jeremy Lin thing, who handled it very well with his criticism. I don't know the basketball player who made the really ignorant comments toward Jeremy Lin. I don't know his name, but was
that he shouldn't wear cornrows just because he did?
Yeah,
and something else.
Yes, and it was an African American player with Asian tattoos tattooed on him. Anyways, but that's what really upsets me, because when I was following basketball, I forget, that Wang guy came in and played for, was it the Houston Rockets or something? And I remember what upsets me is that it's other minorities that are the ones that are making these things, which really upset me on two levels. One, not because, Dan's part Asian, he's going to root for the Asian guy or this or that. It's like, no, that, Asians are a little late to the game. We don't really have TV shows. We don't really have channels, as far as facilitated to us, to other minorities, which is kind of crazy when you look at, our population count. There's arguments that we're not even allowed to, have relationships and kiss in movies. I mean, look at Romeo Must Die. It's based off Romeo and Juliet. They wouldn't even let Jet Li kiss Aaliyah, which was in the script. They have to dance at the end. You know what I'm saying? There's this weird stereotype, and this isn't just me. You can go follow some hashtag on Twitter. I'm sure there's a bunch of tweets talking about it. There is some inequality in that aspect. So for one, that does kind of suck. Tony was asking me to weigh in on that, and two, it sucks even more because it's these guys like I was referencing to that Wang guy in the 90s, where Charles Barkley, I remember, was on Inside the NBA, and he was making like straight up, like, what is he, Wang Chung Wang, and like racist jokes, but more offensive than the race is that it was uncreative and unfunny, which is more offensive in my book. And so he was using race, like Goz says, it takes away from your point. I'm just trying to show one-up or gamesmanship. Yes, but when you put race into it, you change the whole equation. And part of me gets really upset because we're all equal, don't get me wrong, but I also feel like the minorities, the Hispanic Americans who had to go through their own versions of racism just to get into baseball, the African Americans had to go through their racism to get into the Canadian sport that was basketball. I mean, when you see these people have to go through these hardships, I would just expect, when I see they're attacking each other, I'm just like, it sounds cheesy, but it's like, hey man, can't we all get along? We all know each other's hardships. Why do we got to go there? So sorry for the long-winded answer, Tony, or the audience, but I guess that's kind of my view on it. My background.
I'm right there with you guys. I'm one of the guys that has a longer leash in those type of things, but I have to put myself in other people's shoes. And I know if I had a child and he came home and he said, Daddy, I got teased today, and it's because he's fat or whatever, these are things he can control, things that can be fixed.
Yes.
But when it comes to race, there's nothing he can do about that. He is who he is, and I think that would hurt even more to find out that my kid got teased because he's brown or because he's black or because he's Asian, because I can't fix that. There's nothing I can do, and it's a helpless feeling. So for somebody to bring that up, I understand why it hurts people's feelings. But at the same time, I'm also the guy with a little bit of a longer leash, and I understand. I saw a couple costumes that I thought were kind of funny. There was a guy dressed in bubble wrap, and he had a hat that said offended and it said fragile, because we are kind of going that route too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's just my personal feeling. I have a longer leash, but I have no right to tell someone you can't have a short leash.
Right.
In the dictionary, racist is defined as a person who shows or feels discrimination or prejudice against people of other races, or who believes that a particular race is superior to another. I've always kind of hung on to, or at least thought more of the second part of it, which is, or who believes that a particular race is superior to another. So, like, for example, we'll pick on the white people, the Ku Klux Klan. You know, they really do have those sentiments like we're above and we're better, right? But now let's go to the stuff that's happening in sports today. I believe it was more on the side of probably, ignorance, like, teasing, not knowing that how hurtful somebody's actions were or anything like that. But I don't believe Yuli Gurriel believes that. What is he? I guess he's Hispanic, right? He's Cuban.
He's Cuban, I believe.
That Hispanics or Latinos are better than Asians or any other races. So I believe he doesn't fall under under just the branches of what he did was racist or he is a racist or has been a racist or anything like that. I feel like it was ignorance. He doesn't know, and so this was obviously a moment where he's gonna have to learn. And what I struggle with is he was getting booed pretty relentlessly, and I get it. That's the reaction from the crowd. What I guess have a struggle with is when humans make mistakes, especially these professional athletes, they fucking get buried. Now, some will say, well, they make a million, they make millions of dollars and they have a pretty easy life. I'm sure they can take some of this heat. Yeah, I guess they can, but along with it comes their families. They get buried as well. And so I just wish when someone makes a mistake, it could be brought to them like the same way like if you work in corporate America and you make a mistake, usually your boss pulls you in and says, hey, look, I heard you said this, or maybe I was glancing at your Facebook and I saw this, and it's a teaching moment, a learning moment, whatever. If somebody is admonished or written up, that. But this other stuff is so public that I often wonder if the punishment exceeds the mistake. And those people booing, how many of them have led such a perfect life? I wish there was a way in which we could, these celebrities, because most of them, it's entertainers and athletes, the ones that we hear about. Obviously, stuff that happens on the street, that we're not going to hear about that. These are the ones that get hammered the most. But I wish we could at least, on their first mistake, teach them and not make it so public and not make it such a big deal. Because though they made a mistake, I don't believe there's other humans that walk amongst us that don't make mistakes every day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So teach them, but teach them in a way where hopefully they learn. And obviously, like look at Harvey Weinstein. That's the exact opposite. Apparently this guy's been making mistakes for 30, 40 years. You're seeing those allegations come through. Well, that's going to be obviously a bigger hammer that hits him. But there's a lot of people out there that really just may not have known better. And now, you made a point where people come from other countries, they need to learn. That's true. I wish it was perfect like that. But I don't know that is the case. I think they slowly assimilate. If people from our own country are making the mistakes, imagine holding, the others to that standard. So I'm a little all over the place here with this. But I really feel the one thing that I want to come back to is the sensitivity of a lot of groups is a bit much for me lately, and I think tough moments are what makes humans stronger too. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think you have to be dealt a few bad hands along the way, and that's what'll make you a more powerful person. Believe it or not, if you're always getting catered to, or babied or spoiled or whatever, I just don't know that you're going to grow, Now, again, I'm not saying that it's okay for all these athletes to go out there and do all that. I'm just saying it just overall, when I wake up, the things I'm reading, the things I'm hearing, the things I'm seeing, I just don't know that it's not going to backfire as well on society.
My problem with that, George, is, right, this is the question that needs to be answered. Does Uriel, does he not know, or did he just not know cameras were on him? That's the problem, right? He feels like he with his boys.
Has to know cameras were on.
But he's in the dugout, though, right? He's in the dugout. He's with his boys. Sometimes that's where we locker room talk, right? Is where we see these type of things happen.
Yeah.
So is it a question of him really not knowing, or is it just him not knowing cameras were on him at the time and he got caught? There's a big difference. Like, do you really think he would have made that gesture at a press conference because he didn't know? Like, with cameras on you, you know, man, you just know you can't do that. He just got caught. My problem isn't so much, I feel bad that it was a racist gesture, but most of what I'm angry at is you're just fucking stupid at this point. You're just dumb. Like, come on, man, fucking grow up. You know there's cameras on you. There has to be something in you as a professional to know I'm at work and I'm making a shitload of money, and because of that, I have to hold myself to an even bigger standard. Whether you believe you're a role model or not, tough shit, because kids do look up to you. A lot of people are watching us the fucking World Series. Grow the fuck up and know you can't do stupid shit like that.
And that's what it comes down to for me, because, you know, there's a lot of truth to what you guys are saying, and George is right. We could argue the extent to these punishments, and I agree with both you guys in the sense that this isn't something we should condemn and start lighting our torches over. That is overreaction. That is oversensitivity. I would agree, but I do think that something does need to be done and does need to be known, because what Goz just said, kids are watching, man. It's not just the fact that, you know, he's being. I almost felt that like Goz, that the fact that he was being an idiot was more offensive than the race thing. And I'm Asian, by the way. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with you on that. But it is the fact that kids are watching, because it does two things. One, it facilitates more stupid jokes that aren't funny. I mean, I even heard a notable. I won't name the name of the podcast, but had one of my favorite comedians on it. Granted, and they were just kind of going off on Asian jokes, and it really felt really off color. And you know, so you don't want to facilitate that, you know, that culture where I want jokes, but I don't want bad jokes. I don't want racist jokes. I don't want hurtful jokes. That's not my thing. I like jokes. I like laughing, but we need to keep it away from them. And more importantly, back to the original point and the last point here is that, yes, kids are watching, you know. I liked Julio Cesar Chavez in boxing. I love Scottie Pippen in basketball. Race did not have to do with who I looked up to as an athlete. But I'd be lying if I told y'all that if I saw an Asian athlete up there doing something, or an Asian actor, because, again, this is not just me being sensitive or waving my own flag. It has nothing to do with that. This is the numbers. There's not a lot of us to look up to. I would get a little excited. So if you know, putting myself in that kid mentality with the Charles Barkley example I just stated, and seeing, you know, somebody do that, it puts a bad taste, you know, when you don't have these role models, these things to look up to. And this isn't anything new, guys. This is the same story. It doesn't matter if it's Asian, South American, Hispanic, African American. We've all been through the same trials and tribulations. Even Caucasian. This isn't a reverse racism thing. They're included in this too, guys. This is day one. This is day one shit, as Nick Diaz would say.
Yeah, and I just want to say one last thing, and I'll put it to bed on my behalf. When something like this happens, because George, you're right, we're not all perfect. You're gonna say something stupid. I'm gonna say something stupid. Dan will probably say something at some point. When that happens, as a people, if you want to grow as a people, don't grab the pitchforks. Don't grab the torches. Just look at the person, the individual's body of work, okay? In this case, this is somebody that we don't know, okay? But in your personal life, if that does happen, look at that person's body of work and just go, overall, has this been a good person? Maybe I should just bring it up to him and go, hey, man, why? This should be your first question. Why'd you say it? Why'd you do it? Okay? Because everybody's going to fuck up at some point. Don't be so quick to bury them, because guess what? You're going to fuck up too, and you're going to get buried, and see how you like it. We all make mistakes. Just, if you can, in that situation, we all react differently. Sometimes, you know, Dan's Asian. It probably hurt him more than it hurt me. But at some point, just grab that person aside, look at the body of work, and just go, has he done this before? Has he shown these type of tendencies? Don't be so quick to judge. In this case, this is an athlete. This is a celebrity that a lot of people just don't know. He has to live with that, and there's things that come along with that. He makes a big fucking paycheck. He lives in a giant mansion. So as shitty as it is that he probably doesn't get that gesture from people, the ability to maybe the benefit of the doubt, he also has a lot of good days where he's got a, you know, so it's winner. It's lose and take a little bit there, but that's the last thing I want to say on that.
Well, I want to keep going just a little bit.
Okay.
We got about 5
All
minutes before we have to take a break. But here's another thing I wanted to ask you guys, and this is for everybody too. One thing that I guess bothers me about all this is, so Yuli Gurriel, obviously, him and a PR person get together and they write a statement and an apology. But did anything really change? Is he really going to stop using that word? And here's what I mean. They issue the apology. Maybe he does a public statement. Then he goes back to the locker room, and his teammates go, "You good? Yeah, you good?" You know, are we not of the opinion that he's probably going to say, you know, something at that moment? Like, do people really, I guess, change their ways? Those people that were booing in the audience, I guarantee you, on the way out or sometime in the next 24 hours, they probably said something hurtful about someone. You see what I mean? I'm fat. I don't sit there and really shed tears anytime anybody goes down the road of a fat joke or whatever. Do skinny people go down that road of breaking down, you know, and getting teased, or short people, or tall people, or this or that? Like, you see what I'm saying? That I mean, I want to find the balance of, hey, that's hurtful, and at the same time, us not growing as human beings because, oh my God, everything, you know, please everybody be nice to me and throw roses at me 24 hours a day, otherwise I'm going to crumble. I don't want the future generations to be like that either. So I just wonder exactly the person that issued the apology, what it was like when they went back to the locker rooms, the stands, you know, what they were like, what people were saying, you know, in their formal languages. You know, did they say something back? You know, gracias amigo, pendejo, you know, like, but in their own language, you know, and then they high five and laugh. You know, I don't know, man. And from the 48 years that I've been occupying the planet, I'm not convinced that that's happening. So hopefully these are learning moments. But at the same time, I don't know how realistic they are too.
I think the world is going to be changing a lot here soon, because I remember when I went to school, we never had these types of talks.
Yeah.
Especially like in kindergarten, first grade, all that stuff. This isn't a subject that never even came up, okay? So you basically relied on the way you were raised. And whatever it is you're learning from your parents is what they learned from their parents, right? These are different generations. But now these kids are starting to get these, you know, the sensitivity training or whatever, all this type of stuff. They're learning it early on, and I think right now we're stuck in a situation where you have your generation, George, my generation. There's a new generation. I mean, there's even a little bit of separation between Dan, Tom, and myself. Our generations are even a little bit different. But now you got this generation that's learning all these lessons from the get-go. And I just think maybe in 10 years or something, you'll probably see less and less of these type of offenses. But for now, we're in a situation where all these generations have to intermingle for a while, and you're going to get a lot of these types of opinions. I mean, just you and I alone, George, our separation is, 9 years? But even we have kind of our differences in these opinions. And I'm sure our dad, who's way older than us, he's probably got his 2 cents that he wants to weigh in. But eventually, we're just going to kind of get phased out. And I think this new generation is going to be like that, but it's not going to seem as bad to them because they're going to be used to it from the get-go, from the very beginning. These are words you can't say. These aren't like, you know, you and I, we found out you can't say those words later on in life. You could probably go back in old episodes and hear us say words like that. We didn't mean it in that way, but guess what? We made the adjustments because we're not stupid. We made the adjustments. These new kids that are growing up now, they're going to know from the beginning. They just can't say that, and hopefully,
like, will fatso and blob and you know, all that stuff also be written off? I mean, those are hurtful words too.
I'm gonna fight for fatso. Nobody's taking that one away from
me. And you know, there's obviously you know people talking about fat shaming, but will that be lost as well? You see what I'm saying? Like, how much of the vocabulary is going to be gone?
Yeah.
Somebody smart. Look at this egghead. You know, or nerd, or what? I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't think it'll go that far. I think we're pretty close to our limit right now. I think.
Yeah, I think, but yeah, I do agree though. I do feel like, you know, Tarantino movies or going back and watching Goodfellas and watching how they spoke in these movies and stuff. It's gonna feel like a different reality to us. And I like to knock down every door and do all that, but yeah, will it change? What George originally asked, will it change this guy? I don't even know this player's name on the Astros. Probably not, and I really don't care to because again,
to be fair, we don't know.
We don't know. We don't know.
It's nothing wrong to feel that way, but we don't know.
Right.
But I just feel like with the stuff I read about in books. Hey, women should vote. Oh my God, they weren't able to vote back in the day.
Right.
I mean, that to me is preposterous.
Right.
Or the fact that somebody had African Americans that would do the work for them. Slavery. Oh my God. I mean, I can't believe that. I mean, when we evolved as a country, then I thought I really liked some of those movements, but now I just think that we're picking everything so far apart that I believe it's like the opposite end of the spectrum. Not to say that in any of those cases people were wrong. I'm just saying, how are we going about learning from it and at the same time not continuing to the point where some things along the way were hurtful, but guess what? Fucking life is hurtful. You know what I mean? Oh, you know what? Hey, let's make sure that girls never break up with guys because that could be hurtful. Wrong. But we can spend more time on this, but we got to take this break. When we come back, we'll talk to Mickey Gall.
Charm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Strike one. We missed with Mickey Gall. We'll see if we can get him on here in the next 30 minutes. So let's get back to our little lively discussion that we're having. Goes and Dan, I guess I said it, but I didn't really get an answer because we ran out of time. But do you guys think the next thing that'll happen is this whole fat shaming thing?
I feel like it's already happened. Fat shaming, but I don't know if it goes as far as like.
But have you ever been told
it's on a
don't
different
call someone
level.
a fatso or a hippopotamus?
I mean, it
or, you know what I
depends
mean?
how
like,
you do it.
Because I'm telling you, a lot of kids have come home and go, what the fuck? Like, what's that bullshit? And that's an easy target for a lot of comedians, and you see what I'm saying?
I mean, I think early on,
you know,
like little kids, I I put more of the blame on the parents, really, for little kids, because I mean, when you're a little kid, you eat what they give you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see little kids at Whole Foods going, I want this and I want that. Like, this shit doesn't happen. You eat what your parents give you. So if you're a fat little kid, I probably put it more on your parents for not looking out for you a little bit. Hey man, I love pizza, right?
One say,
yeah, 13 years old. I think it has already gotten to that.
As some of us may think, it is. I'm not saying any of us do. Obviously, we've stated our point, but the point is that it facilitates these things. It facilitates one side of the equation and not the other. And for that reason, I don't think we should be getting pitchforks, but I do think examples should be made. In
is an iconic athlete that could be. And we'll have change your life and boom. I goes away, hopefully.
But yeah, I mean that's people that are just kind of somebody that can do something that. But at the end of the day, none of this should surprise.
They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are gorgeous.
From the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino. And as you all know, for the next month or so, there's ups, there's downs. You gotta fight to do some of that too.
Do you remember early in the week when somebody was pissed off that we covered what Conor McGregor said?
Yeah, exactly.
I think all of us have been pro wrestling fans at some point. The term Gorilla Monsoon used to use a lot. When a wrestler was, I think they call it a schmoz, and that's